Hi, it's Maisha. I am really glad to be here today and really wanting to chime in on the Me Too revolution that I see happening. It's a very powerful revolution that is moving through all kind of quarters. I can feel it energetically. This is a very special place for us to be where we are sharing intensely. It has amazed me watching all the shares that are so painful, wounds that are wide open, and people are sharing them, and there's compassion showing up as they share. It's been just a miracle. It's a miracle as I watch that. Because I finally chimed in. It took me a while to chime in on that Me Too because I felt like I had moved past that. And what I realize is that there are a lot of people who are just starting that journey of really digging deep and finding out what it is that may be at the core of them feeling not worthy, unlovable, all those things that come up. And it's part of that. This is part of the journey. Part of my journey, I wrote a book called Journey to I. And in that book, I talk about my journey of dealing with the rapes, the abuse, the things that I did to myself, the painful situations that I put myself in. And many of you may not even know my story, and I decided I would do a video instead of writing it. I would just do a video and share a piece of my story. And part of it is that I was raped when I was 13 years old. However, I didn't realize that it was a rape until I was like 40 years old when I started writing my book. And as I was writing my book, I kept coming up with this piece. I knew that I had lived my life like a person who had been sexually abused, but I couldn't pinpoint where the abuse started. I had had many lovers. I had put myself in dangerous situations. I just had done a lot. When you look at the comparison of somebody that has been sexually abused, I was the poster child for that. And so it wasn't until I started writing my book that I had this trigger. And I realized that it was a rape that occurred at 13 years old. And what happened is a young man that I really wanted to be my boyfriend asked me to come over to his house and to braid his hair. He was the preacher's son. And I went over there to braid his hair. And when I got there, his mom and his sister were there, but they soon left. And when they left, he raped me. He pushed me into the room and he tore off my clothes, and I was constantly saying no, no, no. I knew that I didn't want to do that. I was too young. I didn't want to. And after he raped me, he made me feel like it was my fault. And I thought maybe that this meant that this is how a man or a young boy claims a girl. This is how you claim a girl. This is what happens. And so I kind of put this in my pocket, put it to the side, and this was something that happened to me, but this is what I had to do in order for him to be with me. And so that's, for me, I made it like, it was a normal, I normalized it, and it was all my fault, because I had worn the shorts. And if I hadn't worn the shorts, then maybe he wouldn't have done that to me. And if he did that to me, then that was what was supposed to happen, and how that happened, how a boy claimed a girl. So it was at 40 that I realized that that was a rape, and everything just unraveled for me. So much unraveled when I realized that that was the event, that was such a pivotal event in creating much more of my story, so much more of my story. Where there was another rape at 16, I put myself in a very dangerous situation, and I was raped, and I actually had to pretend that I enjoyed it in order to save my life. There were other abusive situations that I put myself into based on me feeling very much like I wasn't worthy. I wasn't worthy, and I was unlovable, and I was going to prove it to the world that I was unlovable, to the point to where I got involved with a man. I was 16 years old, and I got involved with a man who was 27 years old, and he took me on a crime spree in which someone was murdered, and we did armed robbery, and I ended up in prison. I did 6 years in prison for first-degree murder. So many of you may not know that, but that's part of my story. And so I sit here now today as a person who has processed so much of that, and looking forward now in my life. And I watch this Me Too revelation happening. It's a revelation. It's all happening, and it's spectacular to see from this side as a person who feels like, you know, I've been healed from those wounds. It's spectacular to see us move through this, because what I'm witnessing is the compassion meter on the planet rising once again, as we all understand that, and we live that, we relive some of that trauma, and we're reliving it with each other, and we're sharing in that. And once we share in that, once we understand that we can share in our pain, then we can understand that we can share in our joy, and we can begin to move that. How many of us, as we're telling our story about our own sexual abuse, many of us, our parents have had to deal with the sexual abuse also, and their parents. This sexual abuse thing has been going on for quite some time, a very long time. And it is time now for us to heal those wounds. It's almost as if it's been like a hot potato. You know, it's something, I always think that sexual abuse is like you pass it on. You're trying to pass on the trauma. You're trying to get the trauma off of you. And so you're passing it on to someone else. You know, and so we keep that cycle of abuse going. But this is the generation. This is the generation, y'all, where we are choosing that we want something very different than what we have had and what our parents have had. And when we heal ourselves, we not only heal future generations, we also heal our ancestors. I do a lot of work around ancestral healing, and it's amazing how you can actually heal the past. You can heal the past. You can reframe the past. You can remake the past. You can make it make something else. You can tell a different story. And so now when I talk about being abused, being raped, or whatever, I don't even feel like that's what has happened. These were characters that came into my life in order for me to become who I am now. I needed all of that to become who I am now. And now I feel very whole. And this is what I see for everyone as they are talking about this, as they are releasing this, as they are being heard for the first time, as many people are for the first time even being able to voice this and share this. There is a massive healing going on the planet right now around this, where we as future generations can make sure that this does not happen to another generation, where we no longer are passing that trauma on. We're not passing it on. We're actually healing it. We're actually releasing the energy of it, and we're actually walking into newness. Just as, like I said, if we can share in our pain, then we can share in the joy. And we can begin to create that by being the compassionate beings that we are, showing up. We are showing up and showing out right now. I love everyone. I love you all. And it is just spectacular to be here on this place right now, in this place called Earth right now, as we go through this magnificent shifting, this beautiful unification of ourselves, of understanding that we are divine beings. We are not our experiences. We are not the things that are done to us. We're not that. We're divine beings. You know, I often think about like Kuan Yin and Krishna and Buddha and, you know, all of the divine beings that we talk about who've walked here on this planet. I hope you know that they had to go through their trials and tribulations. I hope you know that it is through that you begin to understand that you are divinity. Through those things. I often wonder, how many times was Kuan Yin raped? How many times was she abused in order to temper that, to bring that forth, to understand that you are not your experiences. You're a divine being experiencing here. But that's not who you are. So just know that and hold this compassion meter to the highest high as we just praise each other and we honor each other as we share these journeys that we have been on. Everybody's sharing their journey. And remember, that's only a portion of your journey. That's only a portion of your journey. So now that you've shared this part and we've played in the Me Too, this Me Too arena, we can begin to play in the Me Too arena of Look how compassionate I've been. Look how I've been loved. Look how I have loved. And we can play in that, and we can own that also. We are not victims. We are not victims. We are divine beings having an experience. And now we get to change that experience. We get to move into a deeper experience of the joy. As we release the pain, we allow joy in. I love you all, and this is amazing, watching this shift happen, watching this compassion happen. I'm so happy for us. I'm very happy for us. So thank you. I love you. Bye.